Hello, this is Tyler, and this is Adrian
Hi.
from Insomniac Folklore, and today we thought we'd do something a little different.
When we were first talking about what to do with this channel, a thing that a lot of you asked for was a cooking show. And we didn't want to do that all the time, but we were discussing this and we decided we would do a cooking show for you anytime there was a fifth week in the month. And that's today.
So I guess we'll get started and we'll see how this goes.
Well, as some of you may know, we are in the liturgical season of Epiphany, which lasts all the way from the 12th day of Christmas up until Mardi Gras, the day before Ash Wednesday. It is also, right now, Chinese New Year. So we're going to celebrate both of these things by doing a king cake with a little bit of an Asian twist. Instead of your traditional flavors of cinnamon and nutmeg and lemon, we're going to do a red bean and coconut and black sesame version. It won't be quite as sweet, but it'll be super yummy and really interesting, and I think you'll like it. The first thing we should talk about is our red bean filling. Red bean paste, if you haven't had it before, is a super popular filling for desserts in many parts of Asia. Some people say it's as popular over there as chocolate is here in the States. So if you have an Asian market in your area, you can probably find red bean paste in a can. And it's totally okay to just use that for this recipe. But it's also not that difficult to make from scratch, so we're going to talk about that today too. The first thing you're going to have to find is some adzuki beans. Okay, I have a cup of beans here. I'm going to rinse them and remove any that float. Okay, and now we're just going to drain this off. All right, we're going to add about 2 cups of water to our 1 cup of beans, or you can add a little more. The next step is to cook our beans over medium to low heat until they're nice and soft. So it took about 2 hours to get our beans nice and soft, so I drained off the liquid. We're going to add about 1 1/4 cups of sugar, a little bit of salt, and then this is technically cheating, but it'll be okay. We're going to blend it up with our immersion blender and cook it a little bit longer to where it gets kind of thick and shiny. So we added about 1 1/4 cups of sugar and a little bit of salt. I'm going to stir that together a little bit. And now it's time for the immersion blender. I've got this cooking on the stove right now on sort of medium-high heat, and I'm just trying to get it to thicken up a little bit more and to get all the sugar to dissolve really nice. It actually smells really good. The taste is surprisingly complex. It reminds me a little bit of dates. Yeah, it's going to be real tasty. Basically, we're going to cook this until it thickens up a little bit, then we're just going to let it cool down, and we can put it in our Pyrex in the fridge until we are ready for it. Using an immersion blender is not the traditional way to make bean paste. The fanciest way is to smoosh it through a sieve to remove all the skins of the beans. Sometimes people just smash the beans with a spoon or something and leave it kind of lumpy for a more rustic variety. That's also pretty popular. I understand the immersion blender is actually a pretty popular method among us lazy millennials though, so. Well, alright, so this is done and we're just going to put it in the fridge until we're ready for it. The first thing we're going to do is to heat together our milk, sugar, and salt. Normally in a king cake you would use regular milk, but since this is a special one, we're going to use coconut milk. All right, we've got 1 cup of coconut milk and 1/4 cup of sugar and a teaspoon of salt. Stir that together and heat it over lowish, medium heat. You know, keep it pretty low. You don't want it to boil. Just heat it until it kind of feels hot when you touch it. While we're waiting on that, we're going to put 2½ cups of flour in a bowl and mix it with a pack of quick yeast. You can't see this, but camera is really curious about what's going on right now. Now that the coconut milk is hot, we're going to pour it into our flour mixture. Once the eggs are mixed in, we're going to add about 1 more cup of flour. It's starting to get pretty thick, so it is just about time to start actually kneading it. As we go, since this is a brioche, we're going to knead in the butter. So I've got about 6 tablespoons of butter here at room temperature basically, and we're going to just start kneading it in 1 little piece at a time. Okay, once all the butter is incorporated, we're going to put this in a lightly greased bowl and cover it and put it in the fridge for 1 hour. Alright, I've got to tell you, don't wear orange socks if you've got a hungry turtle prowling around your feet. It's not a good idea. Okay, my dough is in a bowl and it's going in the fridge. The dough's been in the fridge for about 1 hour and now it's set up and ready to roll. We need to roll the dough into a rectangle shape, so I'm going to start by sort of shaping it a little bit to start with. Once we've rolled the dough into a rectangle, it's time to put on our filling. Like we talked about earlier, we're using a red bean filling for this one. You can get that at the grocery store in a can, but You can also make it yourself, and it's not too hard. That's what we chose to do today. So I'm just going to spread my filling on 1/2 of my rectangle. Okay, next comes the tricky part. We're going to fold it in half. You can pat it down a little bit, but you don't want to squeeze it so hard that the filling comes out. And next we've got to take a knife and cut it into 3 strips. And we carefully braid them together, trying not to make a huge mess of the world and our lives, like always. It's fun! We're going to transfer our braid onto a baking sheet. We're going to put our bread on a baking sheet and form it into a ring. And I just sort of take the ends and tuck them into each other somehow to where, I don't know, it usually kind of looks like you've got a braid going all the way around. Now I'm going to sprinkle on some tasty black sesame seeds. We're going to set this aside somewhere warm so it can rise. We're going to wait until it's about twice as big as it is now. Now that our bread has had time to rise, we're going to put it in the 350-degree oven for about 20-25 minutes. Oven it. You might need to give it a little bit more or less time, just depending on how yours rose and how hot the oven is, since not all ovens are exactly the same. It's been about 25 minutes and we're ready to take the cake out of the oven. Alright, so at this point you could continue to decorate your cake, and if you're going for a more traditional sort of Mardi Gras look, you can put the icing and the colorful sugar on there. I don't have colorful sugar, and I've also had a really difficult time explaining Mardi Gras to Oregonians, so we usually skip that part.
I've gone to Mardi Gras in Portland before, and it's pretty much like a normal night in downtown Portland. Last time I went, there was an anarchist marching band, which you might see on a normal weekend in Portland once in a while. So yeah, we don't really do Mardi Gras so much out here, but yeah, that was something interesting when I was living in St. Louis for a while. You guys actually do that?
So the way we've done this cake, it's not going to be as donut-y sweet as a regular sort of king cake might be, but it's been really good. All of our friends have enjoyed it. So if you're a little worried with our red bean paste that it's going to be outside of your taste, I think you can handle it. I think it's pretty tasty and not too weird.
And not scary.
Not scary.
Unless that's what you're into.
We're on a flavor adventure.
Why don't we take a bite here and see how it turned out?
Alright, let's do it.
So you know, it's usually good, but you never know. So cheers. Success.
Alright.
It's actually not too different from you might expect from like a cinnamon roll. I mean, the texture is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's...
Well, it's normally much more like a cinnamon roll.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, if you can eat a cinnamon roll, you could eat red bean paste. Maybe this is exotic food if you're in the Midwest. Every kind of food is foreign somewhere else.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't. This isn't a taste that you can't like. I think you
Right.
can like this regardless of what you're used to.
Chocolate is a bean. Coffee is a bean.
Beans are good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So taking the Mardi Gras king cake idea and kind of adding some of the
Adding some twists for Chinese New Year, which is a bigger deal here.
yeah, where we are out here in
On the
Oregon.
West Coast, closer to China.
So this is kind of a mesh of cultural ideas
And cities where we've lived.
and cities where we've lived, and to terrific results. Is this something that you've known other people have done this, or is this something we?
I improvised this one time when I had some leftover red bean filling and I was out of milk, so I used coconut milk instead.
And it grew out of that.
Yeah.
So this is an original.
Yeah, as far as I know.
All right, you heard it here.
I always really liked getting red bean filled sesame balls or mochi cakes and
Yeah, red bean mochi is terrific.
right? But mochi is actually pretty complicated to make, and so when I learned how to make the red bean filling, I had to get kind of creative about things to put it in.
Oh, it's the year of the rat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious who I know who's a rat. And yeah, you can add frosting to this, but you really don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a nice sweetness and a
Yeah.
good kind of moist texture to it as is.
Mm-hmm.
So frosting's nice, but not necessary.
Right. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. I hope you enjoyed our first attempt at doing a cooking show, and be sure to tell us what you thought.
It was an experiment. Also, if you'd like to, go ahead and tell us what your Chinese zodiac animal is, because I'm just curious how that lands out there in the year of a rat. And be sure to like, comment. We'd also love it if you would subscribe, because that helps us out a lot. We also have a Patreon if you would like to see more of everything we do happening.
What's your zodiac animal?
Oh, I am the year of a dog.
I'm the year of the tiger.
Yep. And now that we got that out of the way, thank you guys for joining us, and have a terrific New Year.